Sam, you ready? I'm going to call the Cook County Health Finance Committee meeting to order. Will the secretary please call the roll? Here. Sam, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to allow Director Robinson to participate in the meeting, to remotely participate in the meeting as a voting member?
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second. Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We got a quorum here.
For finance, yes, we do.
The next regular meeting of the Finance Committee is scheduled for Thursday, June 5th at 10 a.m. I'm going to first ask if there is anyone registered or here to provide in-person or virtual oral testimony or submitted written testimony to be included in the record.
We did not receive any registrations nor any written testimony.
Okay. Is there any members of the public here that want to give public comment? Hearing and seeing none. It's my understanding that we have some guests today, and I'm going from Gift of Hope, and I'm going to throw it to Dr. Makaitis, our CEO.
Thank you, Chair Ryder. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to cede the floor to our team members from Gift of Hope here.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dave Bosch. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Gift of Hope Organ and Tissue Donor Network. For those who don't know us, we're responsible for educating the public about organ and tissue donation and encouraging people to register their decisions. So this morning, on behalf of our President and CEO, Dr. Harry Wilkins, who couldn't be here this morning, I want to present an award to Stroger. I always say Cook County because I'm old. Stroger Hospital. It's our HRSA award. So HRSA, for those who don't know, is the Health Resources and Services Administration. That's the government organization that oversees organ donation and also encourages equitable health care for people who are geographically isolated or economically vulnerable. The Platinum Status Award is given for the period from 2023 to 2024, and for Stroger, it's given for the hospital commitment to educating all of its staff and its public to encourage organ and tissue donation, as well as a chaplain program that many of you probably don't know about, but we work with Dr. Michael Smith, who is a chaplain that not only supports all the families at Stroger, but also helps us to bridge the gap between the time people learn that their loved one has died to encouraging them to be organ and tissue donors. We also do a number of events during April, which is National Donate Life Month. We do honor walks for families, so when a person is a donor, as they go to the operating room, families say goodbye, and we line the halls with our staff and staff from the hospital to honor that person's life-giving choice to be a donor. There's significant critical care engagement by the hospital, so we very much appreciate that. It's key to us being successful in organ donation. And then, of course, just sharing information about donation throughout the hospital and encouraging people to register their decisions. Very quickly, in 2024, we worked with 10 families at the hospital and their loved ones who ended up being organ donors, and we provided 24 life-saving organs to people throughout Illinois and in many cases across the country. 4 of those life-saving organs were given to patients from Stroger, so there's a real connection to the work and the people whose lives are saved. So I want to thank you, the board, the finance committee, as well as you, Dr. Makaitis, for the support that you give to us. And also, of course, for the healthcare team at Stroger. They're amazing people who do awesome work every day. So thank you very much, and congratulations on this award.
Thank you. Also, please give my regards to Dr. Harry Wilkins. We both serve on the Roseland Community Medical District Commission, so I talk to him fairly often. But you're doing God's work. People believe in God, you're doing God's work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me just add before you have your seat, thank you for this recognition. Thank you for your impactful work. And also give my best to Jack Lynch. I'm sure he's failing retirement, but nonetheless, he's one of my favorites. Thank you.
Bill, you as vice chair, you want to go with the system? You want to go up there? What photo? yeah, why don't we get Commissioner Lowry as vice chair of the system?
He's doing coffee.
What's that? Yeah, I'm good.
You might need it. I'll go up.
You're welcome. I've just been in too many pictures. You're wearing my tie. I couldn't go up there.
That's right.
You would get confused.
It would confuse the two of us.
Congratulations to our folks from, Stroger Hospital. It's an incredible, honor and award. Action items. First up is our Finance Committee meeting minutes. These are expected to be approved by the board at the meeting later today. So we're currently in draft form, though it's my understanding that they're gonna remain in draft form. They are being, did we already pick, so we still have to do these, right? I'm losing track because we've had more Finance Committee meetings and board meetings.
So when the minutes come back to the committee, normally there's not an opportunity for the committee to see and approve those minutes before they go for board approval. So typically what happens is, in the month following the Finance Committee, we bring those minutes back to the committee just for any, do you want any corrections, any edits, reminders of things that happened, perhaps. But in this case, they haven't been approved by the board. So instead of accepting them, because they
We can
already-
approve,
then
we can
you
approve
approve
them.
them. Yeah, that's the motion.
And then they'll have, and then
they approve them, and then it doesn't come back again
Yeah.
to be accepted.
Right, that's why,
I hope
That's why
that makes
last
sense.
month-
Makes
Oh, no,
sense.
no, no.
Great.
no, this is the second month in a row we've done it
Yes,
like this.
that's true.
These are expected to be approved by the board at some future day. They're currently in draft form. They are being presented for the committee's consideration. Are there any corrections that need to be made to the minutes?
None here.
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve item 3A, the April 3rd, 2025 Finance Committee meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been properly made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Not hearing any discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Next, we're gonna move to, actions under the Chief Procurement Officer. May I ask Charles Jones, our Chief Procurement Officer, to please take the hot seat. We have a number of items today, a total of 25. Number 14, Salute Revenue Partners LLC is being withdrawn for today. We're also amending request number 12, is my understanding, Stryker, and request number 22 GE to include 2 one-year renewal options. Charles, before we bring up, our Director of Public Health Administration, who's joining us remotely, I believe, do you have any, umbrella comments to make?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning, Charles Jones, Chief Board Officer.
Good morning.
Yes, that is correct, sir. Item number 14, Salute, will be withdrawn, and items 12 and 22, for Stryker Sustainability and GE Precision Healthcare will be amended to have the 2 one-year renewal options added to the language. And then lastly, that leaves us with 25 contracts that require responsive letters from Business Enterprise Development, that's formerly the Office of Contract Compliance. We have 15 back and 10 in process. So, thank you, sir.
All right. Request number 1 is being presented by, Marlee Hendricks, our Director of Public Health Administration.
Hello, good morning. Yes, I have one contract for you today, Soldemar Solutions. It is a request for a one-year extension, not to exceed $156,000. This contract is intended to support grant-related contract specialist support that supports both CCDPH as well as CCH in procurement.
Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, we're going to move on to request number 2, Health Plan Services, which are going to be presented by Aaron Galiner, the Chief Administrative Officer for Health Plan Services.
Good morning, directors. One item for you today. This is for third-party administrative services, including things such as claims processing, an extension of a current agreement through calendar year 2025, fiscal impactful 1.1 million, and this relates to our value-based care program with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Any questions for Aaron on request number 2?
No questions.
Hearing no questions, thank you, Aaron. We're going to move to request number 3. That's going to be presented by Dr. Rudy Kamopoli, Interim Chief Medical Officer. 3 through 10, actually.
Yes, good morning, Chair, Writer, and Directors. I'll be presenting 8 contracts. The first request is to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $600,000 as needed with Optimus Hospitalists and Pediatric Subspecialists for the provision of nurse practitioners and hospitalist physicians to staff the pediatric and neonatology units and labor and delivery at Humboldt Park Health. This would extend for the remainder of the contract, which ends October 31st, 2026.
No questions.
Hearing no questions, request number 4.
This is a request to amend and increase contract in an amount not to exceed $32,142.50 with Westcare, Illinois, for the provision of staff to work with persons with opioid use disorder in our Cook County Jail. The vendor will increase the FTE from 0.5 FTE to a full FTE.
Any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
All right.
The third is a request to execute a contract in an amount not to exceed $18 million as needed. This is a clinical service agreement with Rush University Medical Center, and they will be providing us with physicians and other licensed employees to provide direct care to our CCH patients. This is a 60-month contract extending through the end of May 2030, and it will be used by 9 of our clinical departments and divisions.
All right.
No questions.
Questions? All right, let's keep going.
The next 4 contracts, all are for 36 months, extending through the end of May 2028. The first of those 4 contracts is a request to execute a contract in an amount not to exceed $1.231 million as needed with Labori Medical Technologies for the provision of catheter systems and supplies for the treatment of our benign prostatic hypertrophy patients by our urology specialist.
No questions.
All right, keep going.
The next request is to execute a contract in an amount not to exceed $1,050,000 as needed with CVRX Incorporated for the provision of implantable pulse generators, carotid sinus leads, and this is for the treatment of our heart failure patients and will be used by our cardiologist in the cardiology clinic.
No questions.
No questions. The next request is to execute a contract in an amount not to exceed $540,000 as needed with Smith and Nephew Incorporated for the provision of hip resurfacing surgical implants, and this will be used by our orthopedics team.
All right.
The last of the
I'd like to make a notation. It appears as though a number of the vendors, while providing great care, are outside of Cook County and outside of Illinois. I just think that needs to be a focus as we move forward, and let's be mindful of that. Thank you.
I would note that some of these, as a guy who's also very focused on that, some of these are very, some of them are very special manufacturing system, so, my guess is we don't have these vendors in the area, because I know we work very hard on that. Thank you.
Well, sometimes, I'm sorry, Charles Jones, and, sometimes these are the headquarters for the organization, and they do have local representations in Chicago and the Midwest.
Yeah.
Great.
The last of the 36-month contracts, this is a request to execute contract in an amount not to exceed $225,500 with Stryker Sales for the provision of neurological supplies for use in Stroger Hospital.
No questions, but I do have a request for, item number 4, service provide outreach to persons with opioid use disorder. Be helpful to get information and detail about what that consists of and what we're doing. I know it's a big problem, but it'd be helpful for the board to get more information about what we're doing and the extent of the problem.
Sure. The last request is to execute a contract in an amount not to exceed $180,709.87 as needed. This is for one-time capital purchase. We'll be procuring 3 ultrasound devices and accessories from GE Medical Services, ultrasounds and primary care diagnostics. Thank you.
All right.
Questions?
No questions.
Thank you, Rudy.
Thank you.
Going to move to request number 11 through 12, equity and inclusion. Shannon Andrews, our Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer.
You're on a different side of the table.
President Trump doesn't like your job title, by the way. We're going to keep it.
Things I don't like either about. Good morning. I have 2 items in front of you. The first item is a request to extend a contract with Concordant for, they serve as our secondary distribution of medical and surgical supplies. This is actually a request to exercise the second of 2 one-year renewal options. There is no dollar request or request to increase funds for this. And the next item is a request to execute a new contract with Stryker Sustainability Solutions. This is a service contract. It's by way of our GPO procurement methodology. This is a service contract for reprocessing and remanufacturing of single-use medical devices. The dollar impact of this is $5,155,575, and it is a 3-year contract with 2 one-year renewal options.
All right. Any questions?
Nope. No questions. Thank you.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Eric, it should probably highlight too that, you know, Shannon, who's our Equity and Inclusion Officer, Charles is a direct report to her, which sort of puts in place sort of like our value system, overall on our procurement.
Exactly right. That's why I live there.
Next up is our requests, number 13 and 15, being presented by our Chief Financial Officer, Pam Kucera.
Good morning.
Good
So
morning.
the first item before you is the request to amend and increase the contract with Atos. Atos Digital Health Solutions is a information and technology management services and virtual training platform that we use in RevCycle to support clinical documentation and improvement with training. This request is to increase the contract $60,264.
No
The
questions.
second request is a request to extend and increase the contract with Paymentus Corporation in the amount of $125,000 and extends through contract period through June 30, 2026. And Paymentus is an online technology tool we use so that patients can make payments to us through various different means, whether direct through their bank account, credit card, or overtime payments. Any questions on those? All right.
Thank you, Pam. All right, we're gonna move to request number, 16 through 22, operations and development, being presented by Craig Williams, our Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you. Just before, I'm gonna just switch slides real quick. The next three contracts are all related to our agency use for, non-nursing agency contracts. Those three contracts are Corsair, Cross Country, and Maxim. Wynn and I will be speaking a little bit later on today about our performance on converting our agency staff to CCH employees. I think we've made some good progress there, and I think you'll be happy with those results. At the same time, we're bringing this extension to these agency contracts that total $34,497,000. And I want to just walk through this slide, which sort of builds up how we got to that number, which, you know, is a large amount of money. As we remind you all, you know, we still expect to have places where we will need to use agency, most notably in dealing with things like seasonality and vacancies. But our last 6 months, we've spent across these three contracts $28.4 million. That averages to a monthly run rate of about 4.7. So we've looked at each of these contracts and the positions that are within them, and we know that we have over 220 accepted offers for agency employees that we currently use off these contracts. That represents about a 20% reduction in our spend moving forward. So that's going to save us just a little under $950,000 per month. So we expect our run rate moving forward to be at $3,787,000. If you multiply that times 7 over the remainder of this, the extension we're asking for, that would be $26.5 million. The two things we've done around agency to reduce the numbers we've been using is to convert current agency to CCH employees. And the other thing is we've centralized our agency onboarding process to put a lot more rigor on how we're deciding when to bring agency staff in, but also kind of centralizing that process. As part of that process, and before when we were decentralized, all of the invoices went out to the individual departments. So as part of that process, we found that there's some outstanding invoices that, while accrued on our financials, haven't been paid as of yet. So there's just under $8 million that fall into that category, 7.9. So the reason why we're requesting the $34,497 is really that 7-month extension, but then dealing with the $7.9 million of outstanding invoices that are older. We do not see this as a problem moving forward, but I did want to explain to you how what looks like an increase in these contracts really represents a 20% reduction.
Yeah, I appreciate the explanation, but more importantly, I think this is a reflection of our investment in our workforce and our people. And I just want to make note of that we are concerned, we are trying to do our best, and this is a real investment in people, not just dollars going out the window.
Agreed.
You know, the 20% is obviously the goal, and I think we're doing great. Big picture, do you think the reduction will even exceed 20%? What's the path forward?
We do. So, you know, really what we've been focused on, and the 20% represents the folks that we've been able to convert from current agency staff to CCH staff. So just switching team jerseys, so to speak. We've also kind of narrowed the funnel. So for people coming in, we think that'll have additional reductions. And then we expect to be hiring people into these roles off the street, which will just stop. As we also build our FY26 budget, you know, we're building in additional reductions overall. And so that will, you know, I just had a meeting with my team this morning talking about, you know, as opposed to immediately calling in an agency employee when we have a vacancy, we need to be comfortable with that vacancy and rallying the troops around how we cover when we have folks out. So, you know, I think we'll be well beyond the 20. As we build in the next round of these agency contracts, I think we'd be looking at 20% reduction this year and probably 10 in the subsequent years to get closer to, you know, closer to about half of what we've been spending in run rate.
Thank you.
Sure. If no other questions, we can go back to the transmittals.
Yeah, we're gonna continue to go over this in our monthly report that we have. Appreciate all of the work that you guys are doing. It's a necessary function that we still, we're gonna have portions of our budget that are dedicated to agency staff, but getting that number down and doing it efficiently. So thank you for that. I look forward to hearing the report. I would like to highlight that as we're doing this, we're coming across other areas, I think, where we're not necessarily under you, Craig. I think we've identified a lot of the agency issues, but we're gonna probably add some other things as we go along into the budget, because we have agency that's popping up in other places, because they were looked more at as a vendor versus a responsibility. So I appreciate the explanation and taking the pause on that.
Sure.
We also have to, there's also the reality too, is that some of these dollar amounts are big, and they are big, but they're also part of a much bigger dollar amount too that we have. So, back to the transmittals.
Okay. So these first three are the ones I just went over. Maxim Healthcare, it's an extended increased contract for $17,643,000, 7-month contract extension to 12/31/25, and these are for staffing augmentation across CCH. Cross Country Healthcare is an extended increased contract for $10,894,000, 7-month contract, 6/1/25 to 12/31/25. 7-month contract extension, and this also is for staffing augmentation across CCH. And the last of these three is Corsair. It's an extended increased contract for $5,959,000, 7-month contract extension, 6/1/25 to 12/31/25, and this is also for staffing augmentation across CCH. Okay, the next is Encore Rehabilitation Services. This is an extended increased contract for $400,000, 12-month contract period, 7/1/25 through 6/30/26, and they provide physical, occupational, and speech therapy to our rehab department. Altifor Industries is an extended increased contract for $242,347, 12-month contract beginning 4/1/25 to 3/31/26. And they provide preventive maintenance, inspections, repairs on our 8 Caterpillar emergency generators, which are here on the central campus. And this is a sole source because they're the only authorized vendor to perform preventive maintenance and repair under our warranty services. Moises Contracting is extended increased contract for $40,000, 12-month contract period, 7/1/25 through 6/30/26. They're our landscaping provider across all of our ambulatory sites. So we're extending, and we are adding in the Bronzeville facility, and they are a MWBE vendor. And the last is GE Precision Healthcare. It's an execute contract for $47,500,000, 5-year contract, beginning 6/1/25 to 5/31/30. And they are biomedical engineering department, so clinical engineering, and they perform equipment maintenance and service across over 16,000 pieces of equipment across the system, including CERMAC. That's it.
Any questions for Craig on any of the transmittals he just went over?
No questions.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. We're now Andrea Gibson. I was looking through different documents here, so I lost my cheat sheet. So the request number 23, strategy, from our Chief Strategy Officer, Andrea Gibson.
Thank you. Andrea Gibson, Chief Strategy Officer. This item before you today is to extend and increase the contract for ECG management consultants. They perform work for us on valuation services like fair market value, both templates and actual evaluations, as well as strategic advisory services. This was originally an RFP, and this would take advantage of one of the extension options in August for another year.
Any questions for Andrea?
No questions.
All right, thank you, Andrea. Next up, request number 24 through 26 from our chief hospital executive for Stroger, Donica, Austin, Kathy, and congratulations again on the Gift of Hope Award.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Ryder. Okay, the first one before us is an extend and increased contract with Central Admixture Pharmacy Services. This is for the compounded sterile pharmaceutical solutions in the amount not to exceed $800,000. The revised contract period of 12/1/2025 through 11/30/2026. The vendor will continue to provide compounded sterile preparations and delivery of our total parenteral nutrition pharmaceutical solutions.
No questions.
The next one is an extend and increased contract with Inmar RX Solutions. This is for our pharmacy financial management performance in the amount not to exceed $150,000. The revised contract period of 11/1/2024 through 10/31/2025. The vendor will provide the services of monitoring, measuring, and tracking of our reimbursement rates to improve our profitability of the third-party prescription plan.
No questions.
And the last one is an execute contract with Cook Radiation Oncology. This is for our radiation oncology services at Stroger, in the amount not to exceed $19,622,933. The contract period of 6/1/2025 through 5/31/2028. The vendor will provide professional staffing services for the Radiation Therapy Center and support the radiation oncology program with the installation of the advanced technology.
Any questions? Nope. All right, great. Thank you, Donica.
Thank you.
Charles, do you have anything else before we take a motion?
No, not for this.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve item 4A, contracts procurement items containing request number 1 through 26, with the exception of request number 14, which was withdrawn and subject to completion of review by contract compliance?
So moved.
Second. Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Charles, first quarter report of contracts executed under authority of the CEO.
Sir, and so, we'll wait on screen.
We've got extra time today.
All right, they have it printed in front of them. I'm not pulling up on a different computer, but you can see it.
Go ahead.
Yes. All right, so we have purchases under the authority of the chief executive officer for contracts under $150,000. The first quarter report for December, January, and February. There was 20 contracts that were led and executed. All were responsive from the Bureau of Economic Enterprise Development, again, formerly the Office of Contract Compliance. Out of those 20, 5 of them were grant-related type contracts, and 7 of them were for capital equipment purchase. Highlighting a few of the higher dollar contracts, we had one with Beth Ann Jacobs, PhD, which was for a grant-funded one with APA, training and program evaluations for Healing Hurt People Chicago expansion, $137,000. Then we had Carestream Health, that provided mobile X-ray systems for the Department of Public Health, $130,000. General Device LLC, CarePoint 3 systems with subscriptions. These are radio services for the emergency department, $113,000. Innovative Medical Devices, CardioQuip modular cooler heater systems for surgery. This was for our open heart surgery at Stroger, $132,000. Piece of equipment there. Contract with Pillar Guillermo, MD, for consultant positions for our refugee health care, $100,000. And then lastly, contract with Respiratory Health Associations for technical assistance to advance tobacco prevention, a grant funded with the Department of Public Health for $120,000. So, there before you now. Any questions on the contracts under the authority of the CEO?
Any questions?
No questions.
All right, thank you.
There they are. All right. Thank you, Charles. Emergency purchases?
Yes, sir. We have two. Okay. All right, so before you, there was one presented on April 4th to Board Chair Taylor and Finance Chair Ryder for a vendor to provide security screening services at Stroger and Providence Hospital on behalf of the Department of Police and Security. Apex 3 Systems were the vendor, a 48-month contract, again, providing screening services at Providence and Stroger. This was weapons detection equipment, $204,000 for that contract.
Great.
And then on April 7th, another one for vendors to provide federal health policy advisors on behalf of the Department of Governmental Affairs with Herald Solutions, 8-month contract. They'll assist us with our federal policy advisory, and that was $60,000. Any questions?
Any questions?
No questions.
All right, great.
And thank you.
Thanks, Charles. Next up are items under the Chief Financial Officer, presented by Pam Casera, again, our Chief Financial Officer. We're going to start with receiving and filing grant award-related items.
Thank you, Chair Ryder. Good morning again. Before you have the grant award-related items totaling $1.8 million. Breakdown summarized above: new awards, carryovers, increase and extends, renewals, and terminated. The only thing of note I would point out here is the two terminated grants, which were COVID-era grants. These are federally funded grants that have been basically stopped, canceled, but we only had a couple million of these monies unspent, so small impact, but did want to call that to your attention. Any questions on any of the rest of the grants?
Right.
Hearing none?
So a motion to receive and file item 5A, the grant award-related items.
So moved.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right. We're going to go into report on the March financials.
All right. Thank you again. So before you, you have the March financial results for the 4 months ended March 31st, showing that the health system came in with a $52.2 million unfavorable variance to budget on an accrual basis, and the county shows us unfavorable to budget as well at $178 million on a cash basis. This is comprised of a positive revenue variance and an unfavorable expenditure variance, which we'll talk briefly about. Next slide, Debbie. So just starting at the top there, you can see total revenue being favorable to budget, $58 million. But the breakdown above, you can see that the adjusted NPSR is negative $41.6 million, which is the revenues that come from the health care side, so the hospital and clinic side of the house, and that we'll talk more about that. And the county care capitation revenue is actually over budget, $102 million, related to their higher than budget membership. Then as you look down through the expense side of things, 107 million unfavorable to budget, again, driven largely by the 135 million that medical claims expense county care is greater than their budget, again, related to the higher than budgeted membership. Next slide. So on the hospital and clinic side, a couple of things going on there. Volumes are lagging behind budget. Now, just as a reminder, in the first 4 months of the year here, we had the holidays, we had extreme cold at the beginning of the year, and then we had some strategies that started off slow that were budgeted to have started, November 1 and have just recently started. So on the hospital clinic side, everything volume-wise is lagging behind budget. However, the county care membership, as mentioned, is still above, but 4.7% above their budget through the end of March. Next slide. Again, these graphs just show the volumes over time, illustrating that the volumes have been pretty flat for the most part. And if you did annualize where we are just as of today, we would be coming in lower than budget and lower than the last several years. Next slide. So payer mix, this is a part of the largest impact that we're seeing in the financials this year. You will recall that in the height of the pandemic, everyone was able to keep their Medicaid coverage and did not have to go through the redetermination process. So we hit an all-time high and then we expanded the coverage to the health benefits for immigrant adults. So we hit that all-time high in 2023 as far as the Medicaid coverage, and since then you've seen now that the redetermination process has resumed, that the Medicaid rolls are coming down and the charity column on the far right is going up.
Yeah, one of the highlights, although it's small, is commercial insurance.
Correct. And actually Medicare as well. So we are seeing very small increases to both the Medicare and the commercial buckets. But that it is so small that it doesn't impact us financially that much. The biggest, 88% of our revenues are Medicaid revenues. When you take into consideration the county care side or the capitation revenue, the net revenue on the hospital and clinic side, all the supplemental payments we receive related to DISH and BIPA, that's a significant portion. So Medicaid impacts us greatly.
I look at that as a silver lining in a very
For
dark
sure.
cloud.
For sure. So not shown on.
I'm sorry, Pam, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, the loss that we're experiencing under the Medicaid, and this may be a little too deep into it, but do we know what category do the folks fall in? Because I'm trying to see where is it coming. Is it a result of people who are not able to get re-registered because they fill out a grace, or is it something else?
So we've asked that question actually, and Aaron can probably share some insight into what he sees on the plan side. But although county care is kept the higher percent of market share and the higher percent of their membership, right? Overall in Chicago and in the county, the total Medicaid covered lives has been going down. Again, that's partially related to the redetermination process, the administrative hassle of doing it, people not getting their information because they've moved, they don't qualify anymore because of income limits. So there's a variety of things going on there, and it's a little bit of everything. But when the only way we can dig into that is after the fact. Aaron can do some deep dives into the claims data to see what he sees, and try to parse it out, right? But right now, it's just there isn't enough claims data to really see anything in particular that sticks out. Aaron, you have anything that you want to add to that?
Good morning, Aaron Gallier, Chief Administrative Officer with County Care. Just speaking to individual population financials under Medicaid, I'd say the most impactful populations when we look at impact on the health system, so which populations utilize the health system the most within Medicaid are the ACA adult population, the HBIA population, which of course we know is going to be impacted, and then some of the lower acuity disabled adult population are sort of the biggest utilizers of the health system. Stepping back from that and just looking at the plan side from a pure profit and loss perspective, you know, there's some variability year to year. I think on kind of the ACA adults and the FHP populations, we, you know, tend to be pretty break even around those. Disabled adult has varied year to year between some profit and some loss. And then over the course of this past year, we've seen some benefit on the HBIA population, in large part because that's a population that came in with a lot of pent-up healthcare demands, and now that they have coverage, their utilization has stabilized. So some of the, I think, initial projected cost of that population has actually turned out lower, and so there's been some net benefit from serving that population.
That's the same population that's being reduced as a result of the program being canceled, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're getting hit in two places. And I'm sure you can appreciate why I'm asking the question, to try to find out how we can stop the loss.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Pam.
Sure, thanks. And again, in this payer mix slide does not yet reflect, right, the impact of what we know is coming with HBIA, which will be, again, yet another shift down on the Medicaid column and uptick on the uncompensated column, assuming that those folks continue to seek services, which some of them, as Aaron said, the utilization is going down.
I mean, the way to fix it, Sam, is a change in federal legislation.
There you go.
And, which is not happening anytime soon. Obviously, we're now going back to a regime that we previously had, but I think we learned that people's the ability to do healthcare for people was improved during COVID on a lot of different fronts, and our failure to continue those types of policies is just an indication of, you know, more to come for where we're at nationally on healthcare policies in the short term.
Sure. Which is a perfect segue into, you know, what we're doing to try to offset some of that. So, you know, we know, given the financials that I just shared, the shift in the payer mix, the decrease in the volumes, the shift that's yet to come, we're projecting right now upwards of $100 to $200 million gap this year. So we're working actually on since the revenues we know are going to go down anywhere between 100 and 200 million. Of course, to remain balanced, we have to look at the expense side of the equation as well. And so we have embarked on that exercise. We'll be coming both to the board and to the county board to share our mid-year budget hearings and what we're doing to try to close that gap. So next slide. Revenue cycle is a big part of it, right? So we want to try to collect every dollar that we can get in the door. And they're still working through the impact of the Change Healthcare cyber attack. And so their KPIs, their key performance indicators, they're still largely in the yellow, although cash collections is now in the green. And again, the payers through the Change Healthcare were not supposed to deny claims based on timely filing, and yet they did. And so we continue to work with them to get those monies and to appeal that, right, and get those monies in the door. And there are still monies coming in for that. Next slide. And then denials, again, we've talked about this. The important thing here is to prevent the denial from happening in the first place. So what we want to see on these slides is basically a downward trend, both from the reasons for the denial. We want to be under the benchmark, which we are back under the benchmark after the 2%, the top graph there, under 2% of cash collections. And then since we are so highly government, Medicare and Medicaid, that second graph on the bottom left middle there, hardly any denials coming from the Medicare and Medicaid, which we like to see. Next slide.
if really quick, because I know we have people coming into the room expecting a board meeting at 11 o'clock. I'll probably make this announcement again, a little bit later, because I see more people coming in. There is no board meeting at 11 o'clock. The board meeting's been, has been, postponed, or canceled? Canceled. Yeah, because we're gonna have a regular board meeting at the end of May. So, you're welcome to stay for the finance committee. We have a lot of fun. We appreciate your time. Again, for those just arriving, we are not having an 11 o'clock board meeting today. Board meeting's been canceled. So, welcome to stay for finance.
Wow.
You can take the opportunity to slowly walk through the door. There's the back door too, if you want to be discreet. We apologize for the inconvenience, to our staff and members of the public who were expecting a board meeting. But we're doing all the hard work happens here, right?
That's right.
So, okay.
So just a couple more slides here, and again, things we've already talked about, charity and public program expenditures. These slides illustrate just, beyond the traditional charity, care, and bad debt, but the other all the other things we provide to the community, including CERMAC and the Department of Public Health, right? But you can see here, if we just took where we are today and annualized it, we're projected to be significantly over both our budget and the last few years, and it's being driven by that top line of charity care. Next slide. So again, on the savings initiative side of things, if we know we're not going to be bringing in anywhere between $100 to $200 million this year, we need to find ways to offset that on the expense side. And these were things we were working on and planned for, and are all in the green. RevCycle, of course, has quite a few. County Care's got a big contract they're renegotiating that'll start mid-year. And then, of course, as Wynn and Craig report out, we're trying to reduce that agency spend, and that agency budget is quite large. And so if we come in under 20% or greater, then those are savings that we will have. Next slide. And then County Care, operating at a loss at this point in the year, $20 million. Their membership is, again, higher than budget, the graph at the bottom, but their expenses are higher than budget as well, related to that membership and the high dollar pharmacy drug costs that they're encountering. And that is the end of the report. Any other questions?
Any questions for Pam?
I don't have any questions, but I just looked up the mission statement of Cook County Health, and it may not be correct because it is an AI overview. It says to establish universal access to the world's best care and health services for all Cook County residents, regardless of the ability to pay, so all may live their healthiest lives. And that's what we're focusing on doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Pam.
You're welcome.
And in order to do that the best way possible, we have to focus on how we're properly staffing ourselves, and our human resources director and our chief administrative officer are here to tell us where we're at on that progress.
All right, good morning, Wynn Beer and Chief Human Resource Officer. I first want to start, we have a small typo in the top left two bubbles there, so the 891 and 678. We'll be going with the numbers 586 for offers made and 457 for offers accepted. So just want to point that out right now. All the other numbers are correct. So we've made 586 offers. From the 586, there have been 457 offers accepted. 380 of those have been filled. This includes 101 internal candidates and 287 external candidates that have joined the organization. Year over year, external hiring metrics show a 19% increase in new hires from 241 in 2024 to 287 in 2025. This increase is directly tied to our priority initiative to convert agency staff into permanent employees. Employee separations continue to trend down post-COVID, reflecting improved retention and stability across the health system, and net hires saw a a nice jump from 61 in 2024 to 141 in 2025. So that's more than doubling over the last year. So we're plus 80 year to date, and based on what we're seeing right now, we're trending to be at plus 100 in the next report. Next slide.
Great, Craig Williams, Chief Administrative Officer. So this is a slide that we're presenting on our overall agency use. So this is total agency FTEs, and you can see not only since September of '24, but over the last several months, we continue to reduce our agency FTEs. We're about 200 down, for a little more than 200 down from our high rate in September, and we're 6% down from month to month, February to March. A lot of that change from February to March is reflective of conversions of agency staff to CCH employees that onboarded during March, and we'll continue to see that similar trend in April and May is what we expect as we onboard more of that staff. Next slide, Debbie. This also is a similar slide to one this is our top job code agency use. We also included the union representation there, and you can see we've really made pretty steady reductions across all of the job codes over the last several months. Most of this being a result of, well, two things I mentioned before: the agency conversions as part of the agency settlements, and then the advanced rigor at the front end through Wynn's team of letting agency in the door. So there's probably, 28 questions that we have to answer every time we want to bring someone in, which is painful, but I think is the right way to do it to ensure that we're spending our resources most wisely.
Yeah, one of the interesting observations I'll make about this slide in particular is that the impact of some of these positions, even though the numbers may be small, might be greater than the numbers that we're losing in terms of people that are providing direct care and direct services. So one of the things I look at is this issue of transporter. And transporter may seem like a job that's not that relevant, but that's the person who's going to get people from room to room, place to place. And if you don't have enough people like that, it affects your entire operation. So sometimes the real reality of these numbers gets lost just in terms of the size of the numbers. So I just wanted to make a point and let people know that each of these positions are important, even down to the transporter, because without transporters, you can't get to patients throughout the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, and I would say we really prioritize folks that are most impactful on frontline patient care, right? And that's the full team. So thank you for recognizing that.
I actually was a patient who utilized the services of a transporter here at the hospital, actually leaving this room. So I definitely appreciate it.
You might have had some VIP help. Next slide just details our locum tenens utilization. So that is both provider agency staff. Debbie, next slide. And that's held pretty steady for the last 2 months. We're at about 35 total FTEs for provider staff. So nothing of note there. Dr. Cromwell, I don't know if you want to comment on that. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll look at current state of agency use, I think, on the next slide. Okay. So we've made 305 offers to the group that was in the agency settlement agreement. 221 of those offers were accepted. Our acceptance rate stands at about 72%. As of at the end of March, we had filled 102 positions year to date. And then we know that trending forward from March through now, we've actually filled 181 of those positions.
So when I'm trying to figure out when the right time to throw this in there, as I alluded to it earlier, I think we've identified a few more places where, we have outside contractors doing work where we have job titles, and want to be able to throw those into the mix as well. So we can have a conversation about that.
Right.
And fluid nature of the operation and how big we are. Sometimes there's things that, get missed, or some of the communications between us and other parts of, the broader county operations. We have to, figure out where some of our folks don't have visibility into, expectations of what's being contracted, relative to places where we have positions. So I just have a few more, and, that may impact the overall numbers, but, it's not a reflection of the work that you guys are already doing. I just need to keep, the mountain just gets a little bit bigger as you make it into a hill. So,
Totally understood.
thank you.
Next slide, I think, is gonna go over that, or any questions? Dr. Funka?
Morning, directors. I'm Mark Spranko, Chief Scientific Officer. So, happy to report great progress on the Actone transition. First, on the grant award side, we've transitioned a total of 17 out of 18 awards already set up at Cook County Health. The last one is an award with HRSA. We're just waiting for what's called a notice of award. We were in contact with HRSA a couple weeks ago after many weeks of silence. HRSA is one of the organizations in the federal government that's slated for elimination. So it's been challenging to get this one across the transom. Good news is, in our meeting a couple weeks ago, they committed to completing the notice of award by the end of May. So we expect the final award to be awarded quite soon. Shifting now to the staff side, a total of 97 folks transitioned from Hectone to Medex. We've been making systematic progress for the last few months to create job descriptions, to create PIDs, to create requests to hire. We're starting to bear the fruit of that. We've made 12 offers as of May 2nd. 10 folks have accepted, and we're picking up the pace. So week after week, things are going in the right direction. We expect to have all the folks with offers by the end of June, and everybody should be onboarded by the end of July. So, any questions?
Hey, Jeff, are you on? Our general counsel?
I am.
Are you excited?
I am.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
You're bearing the fruits of a project that Jeff started 30 years ago. So.
I know. Jeff and I meet weekly. We're both celebrating. It's been a big lift, and we've accomplished a lot.
All right.
Thank you.
So any other questions relative to the report on agency transition? If there are any questions or anything comes up, we can have conversations with staff before the next board meeting or the next finance committee meeting, which actually happens one board meeting and then the finance meeting next week. So this is something that we need to continue to make progress on. I think we've highlighted in the past that we got to an outlier status on the way we were using agency in a lot of places relative to other folks, other facilities, other operations. So again, I appreciate the work that Craig specifically, because he's been working on it. Wynn got to come in and help us turbocharge it as it was already rolling. Craig's been working on this for over a year, so if not a little bit longer. All right, great. Any other business before we adjourn the meeting? If not, the agenda is exhausted and we're adjourned.
Thank you.